Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the January 24th, 2018 meeting of the Rotterdam Town Board. We had our agenda review this evening, approximately 5:30, and we exited approximately 6:30 p.m. We did add two resolutions which have to do with staffing and resolutions numbers 52, 3, 4, 5, and 6, but these resolutions are numbered 51A .18 and 51B.18. And what I'd like to do is just let you know what they are. 51A.18 is a resolution to authorize us to negotiate and enter into an MOA, which I have here, which stands for Memorandum of Agreement with the Civil Service Association in town and our union to add job titles referenced in resolution 51B.18 and added the compensation to the Schedule B of the collective bargaining unit. So we have some positions that we are going to move on this evening. All the positions here are, and I'll discuss them, maybe at least one of them or two of them later, but 51B.18 is giving the town board the acknowledges the creation of the following full-time positions of staff assistant, professional staff assistant 1, professional staff assistant 2, assistant project manager, and senior payroll and benefits administrator. Just as a summary, the staff assistant positions, professional staff assistant positions are, we've had various titles in the town in our bargaining agreement. And when I mention titles or something, that is not to diminish or, if you will, make the case that there's other titles that are better than others, if you will, for jobs in the town or any other municipality or private business for that matter. But we've had some positions in the bargaining unit that we hadn't hired for in several years. And more importantly, there were positions that do not meet today's technology and other needs of the town and different departments in the town. So what we did is we made a concerted effort at the end of the year last year, around the time that we were negotiating and talking about the budget, to create new job titles and job descriptions for people that are within departments in the town. But when I say within departments, the positions in the departments in the town. So where someone might have been an account clerk, they'll be promoted, when I say promoted, they'll be placed into a different job title and job description that more closely matches what it is that they do on a daily basis. And more importantly, affords the town and the departments in the town to utilize some of these folks across departments when needed. Because now, so for example, if one department, and again, this is not to be in any way diminishing or anything like that, but someone has a typist in one department, account clerk in another, that typist may be doing account clerk work for several years now and really hasn't had any title change. More importantly, that person really can't, we can't take an account clerk and necessarily have them move to a different position in the town without having an appropriate job description that matches what the needs are of that department. So acknowledging that we also have needs where we have individuals in the town in some departments that need to more closely work together, and so that Mr. Christou and myself, and obviously with consultation of the board from time to time, because Mr. Christou and I, we are, and for all intents and purposes, the two executives that will determine where staff goes for the most part, and also have the ability for us to utilize some of the staff in different departments for certain projects that we have that we're planning in the new year. One of them happens to be basically website redevelopment and some other things that we're coming up with to help celebrate the 200th anniversary of the town in 2020. So there's a lot going on, and not to belabor this anymore, but we did add those two resolutions, and we'll read those as we go. We'll read them fully as we go into the introduction of the resolutions and make certain motions. So I wanted you all to know that these two resolutions will appear after 51.18 and before 52.18 in the agenda. And it will be updated when we have the final resolutions and results of this meeting online in the next week or so. So at this time also we have, I apologize, we call the meeting to order and call the roll.
Mr. Christo?
Present.
Mr. Guidarelli?
Present.
Mrs. Miller Herrera? Present. Mr. Signor?
Present.
Mr. Thomaso?
Present.
5 present.
Okay, would you all please stand? Samantha, you lead us in the pledge.
I pledge
Pledge
allegiance
allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America
and to the republic for which it stands,
one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. So our first order of business this evening, we have a presentation by the Town of Rotterdam's Conservation Advisory Council on the New York State DEC Urban Forest Tree Grant and Tree Inventory of Rotterdam areas. So, ladies, gentlemen, if you would rise. Yeah. Why don't you? So, Andrea Cole and Bruce Bonnequist are two members of the Conservation Advisory Council, along with Kathy, and Kathy's going to lead. Kathy, would you give us your name and address for the record? And
Sure. Kathy Fisher, 221 Upper Griffin.
thank you.
I'm going to sort of keep this short. Really, we came before you tonight to let you know that we're going to come before you again and explain the grants and what's going on. But really to start sort of at the end, we just wanted to let people know that sometime in the next few months you're going to be seeing, and the population might see, men and women in hard hats with clipboards or devices staring at trees. And that's going to be for a good thing that the town is getting a grant for doing a tree inventory. This came about through New York State's Department of Environmental Conservation. They have a series of grants that you can apply for, either tree inventories or tree maintenance or planting of trees. But the first step always has to be that inventory. As members of the Conservation Advisory Council, we also represent the town in the county's Environmental Advisory Council. That group has, I'm trying to connect the dots here, that group has an invasive species committee. We've seen what's been going on in other municipalities about ash and hemlock problems and how that really impacts the budget. So we thought that we would get the ball rolling and get that inventory going so that the town could apply for maintenance grants. So under the umbrella of Quinnipiac Extension about a year ago now, we applied for grants for Rotterdam, Glenville, and City of Schenectady, and all three were awarded in October. So right now we are right in the middle of a request for quotations process. So we should be getting quotations within the next week. Then we'll get the grant contracts going, and they should start pretty soon after that, and hopefully end everything in the end of September. The deliverables from that will be reports on each of the municipalities. So those are separate contracts, so Rotterdam will have its own report. Also, that data is all going to be given to the county for use in the internet mapping system. The middle part that is coming up is another component of that Cornell Carver Extension will be assisting with, is coming to the town board, possibly having a presentation at the library to let people know why they were at the park and they saw somebody staring at trees, or why someone's standing on the front sidewalk looking at their tree. What's going on, what the process is, who's doing it, and if there are any questions that they've got, we'll just give them an avenue to find out. So that's where we are. So hopefully we'll be moving in the next couple of weeks and get that going before the end of summer. Any questions?
Questions? No? Thank you. Thank you very much for your work. Thank you. Okay, we have no public hearings this evening. We have public comment privilege of the floor, and before we have speakers come up, one of the things that we are going to begin doing this year that we hadn't done prior is really trying to keep to the time limit, particularly when we have large crowds of people. So how many people do we have on the agenda this evening? One person. So probably not going to necessarily have you hold up the red flag tonight, but at some point we'll have to use it. So Ms. Marco has a small red square, because what we see is going to, when I say it like this, is that from time to time I think that people want to come to the town board meetings and speak, and I've heard from some folks that they watch the town board meetings and things just seem to go on for too long, especially me. So what we're going to do is really try to stick to the time limit for public address, but know that As the chair, I can modify that from time to time, but when we have large crowds, large public hearings, we're going to really stick to the general rules and procedure for the privilege of the floor, which is to allow each speaker a maximum of 4 minutes to address the town board and the public. So with that, Ms. Marco, could you call?
Jack Dodson.
Good evening, Jack Dodson, 1311 Cipriano Terrace. Thank you. Realize I got 4. I just got a couple
You
things.
can have a couple more, sorry.
First and foremost, I guess I'd like to welcome our 2 new board members. Thank you very much again for running in advance. Appreciate your time and effort that you're going to put into this job and your service to the town. Thank you.
Thank you too.
Basically, 2 things that I just wanted to mention. One is we have seen that there's a resubmittal of the Whispering Pines, I'll call it 2. I guess I'd like to thank the town again. This time, obviously, everything has been placed on the website. It's all up. I've had a chance to talk to Peter about the project on, I guess, more than one occasion. So again, I appreciate that. And I know at this point in time, you've given us the opportunity at least to look at all this information in this resubmittal. So obviously, we can be informed when we come to address the board. So again, I thank you for that. The other thing I'd like to follow up, Mr. Supervisor, this is 68.18. And if you recall, I think it was the last November, we had a conversation again about Hamburg Street. And it's my understanding on Hamburg Street that the town entered into a betterment agreement with the New York State DOT to install new utilities on Hamburg Street consisting of new sewer and water. And a resolution was passed, I think it's a couple $100,000. There were some issues, I think, with the service laterals that cross the street and actually provide service to the individual homes. And I think the comment at that point in time is you want to make sure that DOT had enough money in order to obviously, in a change order, to add those facilities in as necessary as you guys do the work. But you know, my comment at the time is in most of these benefit contracts, generally what we'd see is you're going to put a new sewer main in. Obviously, there's a lateral associated with it that would go to the businesses or homes. And our expectation, or at least mine was, is that if you're doing that, you would be doing the water service laterals as well. And I think that you informed me at the time that that wasn't the case, that I think it's just the...
I'm going to wait till you finish. Just a couple of clarifications. I did some research after our previous conversation.
Okay, so I'm just kind of following up on this. You know, of course, we hear all the scuttlebutt in the neighborhoods about what's going on with the project and stuff like that. This proposal, 68.18, appears to be some additional oversight on the project.
67.18.
So you got to renumber, don't worry about that.
Yeah, okay, my apologies, I'm
So it's
looking
not
at
your-
it.
it's not- it's your-
Probably
I know
didn't
exactly
listen
what we're
wrong.
talking about, it's okay.
So I think you're adding additional oversight on the job of a town engineer overlooking maybe the DOT's inspector that's out there,
We
a
got
resident
to.
engineer.
By that.
And it relates to water, so I guess I just need some clarification on why this wasn't included in the original work and what new is being added.
If I may.
125 on the
Right. You, if you recall, you brought this point up to me both at the meeting and then we talked about it a little bit privately. I think it was via text. Please correct me if I'm wrong, because this was a project that started with the previous administration. The sewer project and the laterals on the sewer project were in the original scope of the sewer project. The water line was actually kind of a surprise that the state came back and said, oh, by the way, since we're digging for the sewer line, we're gonna give you a new water line.
At our expense.
No, that's
no,
inaccurate.
No,
That's what I wanna know.
no. The only expenses really is these laterals that have come up now, and while we're digging, we said, well, geez, you know, you get in there and you say, some of these laterals are 100 years old. Which now presents that it wasn't that it was missed in the scope, it wasn't that it wasn't part of the original project or an oversight, it was the fact that this was an additional, I guess you could say, gift by the state to give us this water line, but their gift doesn't include the laterals.
Doesn't include the laterals, that need the resized laterals, and also the oversight that we cannot have the state we can't expect the state to do the inspections for us, so we have to have a TD do the inspections for us. And the laterals themselves and some of the infrastructure that goes to people's homes is not just antiquated, but in the, it may not be right sized either. So that's all part of it as well. But the cost, the prior resolution was for $125,000 for the laterals, up to $125,000. This is up to $50,000 for the oversight, and that's just to give us to make sure that we don't have any other issues with the water lines and the water itself. So the main transmission line, along with the hydrants, is all on the state. The state is replacing that entire length of water line, transmission line, and hydrants.
So when we're saying that, again, it's part of the reconstruction that the state's doing. They're saying, hey, Tom, we're picking up the cost of the water line.
Correct.
No payment from the town. They're
Correct.
doing that, laterals are on us, and of course, there's a sewer district there, and the residents already have paid for the sewer
Correct.
district.
Yeah, and at some point, God forbid, we would end up having to, hopefully we never will have to do that, but, go in and correct or repair a lateral, replace a lateral later after the road is complete, and we're
We
not
don't
gonna
wanna
do
do
that.
that.
We're correct, so that's why we took the steps last month and this step to ensure that we're, that we are getting all that work accomplished and getting accomplished with an engineer's eye to it.
The last thing I just had, and I want to reiterate again our conversation again from last year relating to sidewalks again, and again, offering even my assistance. I've looked at the sidewalks in more detail, specifically my comment relative to, the Methodist Church, down to Curry Freeze to the intersection, knowing again that it's difficult to put a sidewalk down through there, but to begin to make the efforts to come up with the plan to see what we can do to get that done, so we have more of what I would consider as neighborly walkability in the town of Rotterdam.
Well, I think we're all in agreement with that, and, perhaps, you do a lot of projects throughout the state, maybe, and that is also a state road, Route 7, so perhaps maybe you could help us open some of those doors and get some communication going with the people that we need the cooperation of.
More than happy to.
Thank you, Mr. Dotson.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Anyone else? That's it? Okay, all right. A few people that come in later, I think. Anyone else want to speak this evening that didn't get a chance to sign up? No? Okay. All right, so let's move into the resolutions. We have 51A.18, or sorry, 51.18.
Appoint Nicole Pavone of Rotterdam, New York, to the position of account clerk for the town of Rotterdam's Controller's Office, full-time provisional, with full employee benefits at an annual salary of $39,016.32, commencing February 5th, 2018.
Okay, may I have a motion, please?
I'll move.
Okay, motion by Member Signori. Is there a second, please?
I'll second it.
Okay, second by Member Christou. Anyone on the question? Okay, Ms. Marco, would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Christou?
Yes.
Mr. Gitterelli?
Yes.
Mrs. Miller Herrera? Yes. Mr. Signor?
Yes.
Mr. Thomason?
Yes.
5 yes.
Okay, resolution 51.18 passes, and Nicole is here. Nicole, would you just stand up for those of us that didn't see you before? Thank you. Welcome aboard. Okay, 51A.18.
Authorize the supervisor to negotiate and enter into a memorandum of agreement with Civil Service Employees Association, CSCA, Local 1000, Town of Rotterdam Unit, Schenectady County Local 886, to add the positions and compensation referenced in Resolution 51.B-18, Schedule B of the Collective Bargaining Agreement.
Okay, may I have a motion, please?
I'll move.
Okay, motion by Member Christou. Is there a second, please?
I'll second.
Second by Member Gitterelli. Anyone on the question? Okay, Ms. Marco, would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Christou?
Yes.
Mr. Gitterelli?
Yes.
Mrs. Miller Herrera? Yes. Mr. Signor?
Yes.
Mr. Thomason?
Yes.
5 yes.
Okay, resolution 51A.18 passes. Resolution 51B.18.
Acknowledge the creation and authorize the as-needed funding of new positions including Staff Assistant, Professional Staff Assistant 1, Professional Staff Assistant 2, Assistant Project Manager, and Senior Payroll and Benefits Administrator effective January 24th, 2018.
Okay, may I have a motion, please?
I'll move.
Motion by Member Christou. Is there a second, please?
I'll second.
Okay, second by Member Gitterelli. Anyone on the question? Okay, Ms. Marco, would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Christou?
Yes.
Mr. Gitterelli?
Yes.
Mrs. Miller Herrera?
Yes.
Mr. Signor?
Yes.
Mr. Thomason?
Yes.
5 yes.
Okay, resolution 51B.18 passes. Resolution 52.18.
Appoint Michael T. Mahar of Rotterdam, New York, to the position of Assistant Project Manager for the Town of Rotterdam Department of Public Works, full-time provisional, with full employee benefits at an annual salary of $68,691.31, commencing January 24th, 2018.
Okay, may I have a motion, please?
I'll move.
Okay, motion by member Christou. Is there a second, please?
I'll second.
Okay, second by member Signori. Anyone on the question? Ms. Marco, would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Christou?
Yes.
Mr. Gitterelli?
Yes.
Mrs. Miller Herrera?
Yes.
Mr. Signor?
Yes.
Mr. Thomason?
Yes.
5 yes.
Okay, resolution 52.18 passes. Resolution 53.18.
Appoint Dana Oster of Rotterdam, New York, to the position of Professional Staff Assistant 1 for the Town of Rotterdam, full-time provisional, with full employee benefits at an annual salary of $39,882, commencing January 24th, 2018.
Okay, may I have a motion, please?
I'll move.
Okay, motion by member Christou. Is there a second, please?
I'll second.
Second by member Miller Herrera. Anyone on the question? Okay, Ms. Marco, would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Christou?
Yes.
Mr. Gitterelli?
Yes.
Mrs. Miller Herrera?
Yes.
Mr. Signor?
Yes.
Mr. Thomason?
Yes.
5 yes.
Okay, resolution 53.18 passes, and I know Dana is here, or was here. Dana, you stand up, and let us give you a little thank you. Since the election of Ms. Martin, Ms. Oster came back down to the supervisor's office, thankfully. Thank you very much. 54.18.
Appoint Kenna Collins of Rotterdam, New York, to the position of Staff Assistant for the Town of Rotterdam, full-time provisional, with full employee benefits at an annual salary of $37,165.90, commencing January 24th, 2018.
Okay, may I have a motion, please?
I'll make a motion.
Motion by member Gitterelli. Is there a second, please?
I'll second.
Okay, second by member Christou. Anyone on the question? I'd like to just say that Ms. Collins started in the supervisor's office last year and is now working through our office at the Highway Department and doing a fantastic job there and assisting the Highway Department on a full-time basis in an administrative capacity. So she's not here this evening, and she's at school. So I just wanted everyone to know she didn't skip out. She had something important to do tonight. So we have a motion by member Gitterelli and a second by member Christou. Ms. Marco, would you call the roll?
Mr. Christou?
Yes.
Mr. Gitterelli?
Yes.
Mrs. Miller Herrera?
Yes.
Mr. Signor?
Yes.
Mr. Thomason?
Yes.
5 yes.
Okay, resolution 54.18 passes. Resolution 55.18.
Appoint Julian Scalacci of Rotterdam, New York, to the position of Professional Staff Assistant 1 for the Town of Rotterdam, full-time, provisional, with employee benefits at an annual salary of $39,882, commencing January 24th, 2018.
Okay, may I have a motion, please?
I'll move.
Motion by member Christou. Is there a second, please?
I'll second.
Okay, second by member Gitterelli. Anyone on the question? Okay, Ms. Scalacci. Could we have a roll call, please, Ms.?
Mr.
Marco?
Christou?
Yes.
Mr. Gitterelli?
Yes.
Mrs. Miller Herrera?
Yes.
Mr. Signor?
Yes.
Mr. Thomason?
Yes.
5 yes.
Okay, resolution 55.18 passes. Joanne, would you stand up, please? Joanne works down our Department of Public Works. Doing a great job for us there. Thank you, Joanne. Okay, resolution 56.18.
Appoint Tammy Whalen of Rotterdam, New York, to the position of Staff Assistant for the Town of Rotterdam, full-time provisional, with full employee benefits at an annual salary of $37,165.90, commencing January 24th, 2018.
Okay, may I have a motion, please?
I'll move.
Motion by member Christou. Is there a second, please?
I'll second.
Okay, second by member Gitterelli. Anyone on the question? Okay, Ms. Marco, would you call the roll?
Mr. Christou?
Yes.
Mr. Gitterelli?
Yes.
Mrs. Miller Herrera?
Yes.
Mr. Signor?
Yes.
Mr. Thomason?
Yes.
5 yes.
Okay, resolution 56.18 passes. Tammy, would you stand up? Tammy, just, thank you, Tammy. She doesn't, I don't know, all I can say, Tammy, thank you. Tammy's been working for the town for a number of years, has great skills and is awesome. Joanne's awesome. They're all great with the public. And that's really what we're about here. And I want to just let people that are listening to this evening, I mean, we did have some people from the outside apply for these positions, and hopefully they'll apply for some positions with the town in the future as well, because we had some great candidates all across the board with some of these positions. These are all except for one. These are all positions that currently exist in the budget under different titles. So there is, and they're all budgeted for. So I want to just get that out there to everyone. So we're not adding new jobs in the town, bar one. But at the same time, there are a couple of other positions in discussion with the board members of where we're going with our town here in the budget. That we probably, and I say probably because unless something catastrophic happens, we won't be filling them. So we're net we're still down. So I just wanted people to know that we're in a good place with our staff, and we're very fortunate to have people that want to work for the town and do a great job for the public. So thank you. Resolution 5718.
Adopt and authorize the supervisor to sign negative declaration dated January 24th, 2018 for a portion of tax map number 48.17-1-1.11 located at 647 Marival Road, Rotterdam, New York 12306 from agricultural A1 to a general business B2. Applicant is proposing to rezone 4 acres of a 5.84 acre parcel.
Okay, may I have a motion, please?
I'll move.
Motion by Member Christou. Is there a second, please?
I'll second.
Second by Member Guidarelli. Anyone on the question? On the question, I would like to just read part of the seeker determination of non-significance is what it's titled, for the change of zone and reasons supporting the determination prior to us getting into the actual adoption vote, which is 5818. And I want to thank the developer. I want to thank the property owner and also their TDE or their engineer for their work in working with the planning department, with the Department of Public Works, and with members of the town board to seek some alternatives because of the concerns from some of the residents and others in the area. So let me just read this into the record. It's part of the record, but I'd just like to read it for those folks that will be watching the meeting. Property is located in a commercial residential area with surrounding land uses, residential, commercial, and industrial. The proposed change of zone is consistent with the commercial land use designation in the comprehensive plan. A portion of the property nearest the intersection of Burdick Street and Marival Road is already zoned general business B2. The applicants have indicated some conceptual general layouts for potential commercial uses of the property. However, formal plans have not been submitted as a potential development project has not been proposed as part of the action. A 2.2 acre portion of this property lies southeast of the existing National Grid right-of-way. Future development of this property will require an amendment to the existing access easements to the site. Additionally, due to the location of this landlocked portion of this site adjacent to residentially developed property, the applicant will be required to install buffers as part of the site plan review process with the Planning Commission if the property is developed commercially in the future. Lands to the west are developed with a pool store and restaurant. To the north is an existing Stewart's gas station, vacant industrial property, and an apartment complex currently under construction. To the east lies a residential subdivision and National Grid transmission lines, and south an existing town-owned stormwater management area. So there'll be additional reviews. There will be additional work by the Planning Commission during the site plan approval process. So although we'll see what the result is this evening of the zone change, the actual work to the specifics of the project will be detailed and before the Planning Commission in the near future. And again, I want to thank everyone involved in the project for their diligence and openness to meet with members of the board from time to time, and in particular with the Department of Public Works to come to a fair resolution for the potential development of this property. Let's vote on 57.
Mr. Christou?
Yes.
Mr. Guidarelli?
Yes.
Mrs. Miller Herrera? Yes. Mr. Signor?
Yes.
Mr. Thomason?
Yes.
5 yes.
Okay, 57.18 passes. 58.18.
Adopt local law number 1 of the year 2018 for the following purpose: to allow for a change of zone request from Anthony Pizzone and Scott Emerald, owners for property located at 647 Marival Road, Rotterdam, New York 12306, known as tax map number 48.17-1-1.11, The applicant is requesting a change of zone from agricultural A1 to general business B2 for various retail commercial uses. Applicant is proposing to rezone 4 acres of a 5.84 acre parcel. Public hearing was called for at the town board meeting of May 10th, 2017 and December 14th, 2017. Public hearing was held at the town board meeting of May 24th, 2017 and January 1st, 2018.
Okay, may I have a motion, please?
I'll move.
Motion by member Christou, is there a second, please?
I'll second.
Okay, second by member Gitterelli. Anyone on the question? Okay, Ms. Mark, would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Christou?
Yes.
Mr. Gitterelli?
Yes.
Mrs. Miller Herrera?
Yes.
Mr. Signor?
Yes.
Mr. Tomazone?
Yes.
5 yes.
Okay, resolution 58.18 passes. Resolution 59.18.
A resolution authorizing the issuance of a $400,000 bond of the town of Rotterdam pursuant to the local finance law of the state of New York to finance the $400,000 for the completion of a 5th water well project of the town of Rotterdam.
Okay, may I have a motion, please?
I'll move.
Okay, motion by member Christou, is there a second, please?
I'll second.
Okay, second by member Miller Herrera. Anyone on the question? I'd like to just mention, this is a resolution for funding to complete the water well number 5 at Rice Road as part of our water system. The current, and I know we've mentioned this in the past, but the current flow on that line, if you will, is over 3,000 gallons a minute. And we will be building the pump house and putting in all the infrastructure this year. And then we're thankful to the state for their assistance in providing funding. One of the challenges and you know, for us is not just the bid process and everything else, but the cost that we had anticipated. And this grant was a joint grant between the town of Rotterdam and Rotterdam Junction Fire Company and GOSER, the Governor's Office of Storm Recovery, assisting us with the funding. The vast majority of the funding is coming from the state of New York in the way of a grant. This well is needed by the town, and we'll have more news about our water system as the year progresses here with the grant that we talked about last year that we received, the award of $5 million, $3 million grant, $2 million low interest loan to make improvements to our tanks, and also to the lines for carrying the water from our plant down into Princetown Road, the 5 corners. We're very, very fortunate that we were successful in getting that grant. And you know, as you can see just from a couple of weeks ago with the water break on Prairie Road, and I want to commend our water sewer maintenance crew, our highway department, and also Larned and Sons for their work as well. It was very, very cold. Members of the board showed up, and we were freezing, and some of the guys who were working didn't have any gloves on. I don't know how they do it, but they do it. And the work that was involved in the 20-inch, replacing part of a 20-inch pipe is daunting. It's just daunting, the work that's involved. And I just want to thank everybody for their quick work, including our water department employees. And they were able to isolate the area so that it was a very small area that was affected by a boil water advisory. And of course, you know, we had the one line done, and we had the testing on the water, and everything was coming back perfect. And then the second break happened. So the minute you start digging in these kinds of temperatures and temperature changes, I should say, and then just touching that line just a little bit, no different than a pipe in your house that you think, hey, I've done that myself. You know, I can get this done, and then you end up having to go shut all the water off at the house because you have a big leak and there's no shut off. Luckily, we have valves, and so the valves work. You know, it takes time to shut them down though. It's a long process, but in those conditions, again, I want to thank everyone who worked very, very hard for our residents on those very, very cold days.
Mr. Supervisor, again, just a point of clarification on this resolution.
Yeah.
Similar to the water laterals on Hamburg Street, this is again not an expenditure because something was left out of the scope or
No.
not covered. It's,
No.
you're dealing with multiple state agencies. you never know how the funding's gonna come through completely. You know, you could probably explain it better than myself.
Well,
But
it's-
I think it's important to note that, again, this was not because something wasn't, you know, there was no negligence involved or lack of detail in a scope or anything like that.
Strictly, you know, there's a pot of money, and everybody's using, I say everybody, there's entities using that pot of money. And everybody has their priorities. And again, without the grant, without any of the grant, this well would cost us way in excess of $1 million, $1.2 million, $1.3 million. So with the grant, obviously, we're talking about substantially less dollars out of Water 5. But more importantly, these were all projects that for the past 10, 20 years, the town has contemplated. Whether we're talking about you know, replacing the transmission line, having more water storage, getting another well, you know, these are not things that the town just said, hey, we don't have anything else to do this year. These are all necessities for the furtherance and the continuance of the town, and not just for residents, but for businesses as well. So we're very fortunate that the state has recognized infrastructure as a priority, and we have benefited from it. So, thank you. Anyone else on 59? And one of the other questions, just so, as far as the cost for the bond and so on, out of, you know, this year's money, as we look at our budget from last year, from 17, how we ended the year, and we'll start having some conversations about creating reserve accounts and really forward thinking of you know, paying for these bonds. What are we going to do next year, and planning out more work and infrastructure in particular in 2019 and 2020. So there's a lot to do. And I want to say that, as I said on January 1st, you know, Evan, you weren't here, so I couldn't speak nice about you, but I'll say something nice about you too. Is that one of the things I'll say about the board and thus far, I've got to tell you that everyone is very active in working for the best interests of the people in our town, all of us. And we, for those of us who are here, and that's no reflection on anyone in the past, I don't want you to misinterpret what I'm saying, but we have really come to a good place. We're in a good collaborative place right now. So you're going to see, I think, in this year and next year, much more, you know, responsibility on behalf of each board member, where they will be taking on projects from, not necessarily from beginning to end, but involving themselves, and being involved directly with town staff and town department heads. And frankly, we're thrilled. Evan and I are thrilled, and I can tell you the department heads are thrilled too, because they don't have to just talk to Evan and I anymore. So, you know, that gives them, you know, somebody else to talk to, and
It's about getting results, not some sort of gotcha moment.
Yeah,
you know,
so
or some conspiracy theory.
you don't like that? You don't like talking to Evan and I? Pardon? No. So,
I think we should call the vote.
we should call the vote for 59, please, Ms. Marco.
Mr. Christo?
Yes.
Mr. Gitterelli?
Yes.
Mrs. Miller Herrera?
Yes.
Mr. Signor?
Yes.
Mr. Thomasons?
Yes.
5 yes.
Resolution 5918 passes. Now we have consent items 60.18 through 76.18. Anyone have any questions on any of those resolutions before we vote on them, in case there's something that I need to get my hands on prior to even calling for the motion? No?
No.
Okay. Ms. Marco, would you let's have a motion.
Mr. Supervisor,
For
I'll make a
60
motion
through 70.
to approve the following consent items, resolution 60.18 through and including 76.18 as a consent agenda, a vote of yes.
Okay.
Second.
Second. Okay, so we have a motion by Member Christou and a second by Member Signori. Anyone on the question? Okay, Ms. Marco, would you call the roll?
Mr. Christo?
Yes.
Mr. Gitterelli?
Yes.
Mrs. Miller Herrera?
Yes.
Mr. Signor?
Yes.
Mr. Thomasons?
Yes.
That's 5 yes to vote consent.
Okay, resolutions 60 through 76 passed. Thank you. Anyone have committee reports this evening? See, we still have that 211 thing, because they've been getting calls. You want to mention that? I've got this here. Let's give you the detail on that. Yeah.
the tax service where people can go and have their taxes done at the senior center. The program is requesting that people use the 211, where you call 211, which connects you to the United Way to set up appointments. That way they don't have too many people show up at once, and they have adequate time to meet with everyone and prepare their tax returns. So again, if you're looking to have your tax returns done through the AARP Tax Aid Program at the Senior Center, they're asking that you call 211 to set up and schedule your appointment.
Thank you. So, and all you have to mention is tax services in the town of Rotterdam, right? And then they'll actually set up the appointments for us. You don't need to call the senior center. You can call the senior center, they'll probably give you a 211 number, but the program has gone very, very well in the past. This year, the United Way picked up that effort for us, the call center, which saves us a lot of calls to the senior center, and it's been actually better for us from a scheduling perspective for those folks. Anyone else have anything this evening they'd like to mention?
Mr. Supervisor, I make a motion to adjourn.
Okay, we have a motion by Member Christou for adjournment. We have a second?
Second.
Second by Member Guidarelli. Okay, all in favor of adjournment, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed? Okay, the ayes have it. Thank you very much for attending the meeting this evening.